In late 2013, 2 new drugs were approved by the FDA to treat chronic hepatitis C virus. One of these agents was Sovaldi, the third drug receiving breakthrough therapy designation from the FDA. The breakthrough therapy was the first drug approved to treat chronic hepatitis C without the co-administration of interferon, a drug with numerous side effects that often led to non-adherence with treatment regimens. Unfortunately, along with this new treatment regimen comes a hefty price tag, $1,000 per day or $84,000 for an average duration of treatment. That's not including the cost of co-administration of ribavirin and possible interferon. Sovaldi's launch was thought to be the biggest in history and has already been used to treat approximately 117,000 patients suffering from chronic hepatitis C. Sovaldi has demonstrated higher than 90% cure rates associated with its use. But is this worth the costly price tag? With that 90% cure rate, Stacey, is that price tag worth it?
Well, I think to say that this Sovaldi example is a very unique case study is certainly an understatement. There's really no doubt that it's very expensive, but it's sort of interesting to think about it. If it wasn't a drug that cured the virus in 12 weeks, but instead was used over 15 years to suppress the virus and potentially reduce end organ damage at a cost of $5,600 a year over 15 years, we would think of it much differently. However, that's not the reality. The reality is $84,000 in 12 weeks hitting budgets in a particular budget year. And I think that's really one of the ways that's made this discussion so unique. I think the other real issue that we see with the hepatitis C treatment population is the sheer numbers. The CDC really estimates that approximately 3.2 million Americans have hepatitis C. So certainly in the specialty space, we're used to dealing with very high-cost drugs. We see high-cost drugs all the time, but we typically see them in orphan disease states where there's very few patients across the country being treated. And the issue with this is that we really have a tsunami of patients to be treated that are hitting payers all at once with this incredibly high cost. So I think those are a couple of things that really make the Sovaldi and the hepatitis C example very unique within this past year.
So I was thinking that it is worth the price tag for some patients, but maybe not all patients. So it's important to understand that hepatitis C is a very slow progressing disease, and that not all patients are going to end up with cirrhosis or a liver transplant. So the CDC estimates for every 100 patients that are infected with chronic hepatitis C, that 60 to 70 of those will go on to have liver damage, but only 5 to 20 will actually develop cirrhosis, and which may lead to liver transplantation or liver cancer. So when you think about that, should all of the patients that have hepatitis C or infected be treated with these drugs? We know it is a cure for every patient, but if not every patient is going to go on to develop cirrhosis and have these severe effects of the disease, it really makes you question it. And I know recently I read that a large portion of the patients, I believe there were 50% or more, did not have advanced disease that were treated with Sovaldi of those 117,000 patients. So I think, as new therapies enter the marketplace, I think, payers need to be thinking about, which patients are the most important to treat. Do we need to treat all of them? And is that the way that we can afford the treatment for those that, really do need it?
Very good. Any other comments? Nick?
It becomes a very challenging dilemma, and really specialty pharmacies is somewhere in the middle. We do a large portion of hepatitis C, and in one particular Medicaid area, the state Medicaid program, we had they had not approved the drug in the beginning of the year, and they were trying to make it go through formulary and figure out how they're going to handle it. Well, it turned out that we had 90% of those referrals were sent in from our organization. So we went down and we met with the state Medicaid program, and when you hear the program tell you that if they approved every authorization that's out there, they would spend the whole year's budget. And how do you balance that? How can a program pay for the hepatitis C patients and then everyone else who needs a Medicaid prescription, the funding's not there? And then the other interesting, we met with another large payer in the Med D space, and they looked at their claim data and said, well, we only paid for 4 liver transplants last year. How much is Sovaldi really helping our organization and our patient population? So I think appropriate use is something important with these higher cost agents.
That's an eye-opening statement that you got from the state. That was a Medicaid program.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's the dilemma and the challenge that even commercial health plans are facing. We all know that patient affordability is a barrier to start a therapy. And in fact, if the copays are high enough, it could be actually a denial for that patient to get treatment. Is that an issue with the Hep C drugs? Are we seeing high copays and patients, essentially not being able to get therapy because of affordability issues? Any thoughts?
In our organization, for the commercial patients, we're not seeing that. The manufacturers are supporting copay offsets, and those are being effectively applied, so we're not seeing that. But in the non-commercial, those government payers, we are seeing patients who do have financial barriers. In that regard, we're leveraging the funding organizations, PANAF, PAF, CDF, to help support appropriate utilization.
That's great the specialty pharmacy does that.
Yeah,
Nick?
absolutely. I think, if you look at, in our organization, the cost barrier is really almost nil in this space. There's plenty of funding. We work directly with the liver foundations, and there's the opportunity to, once the patient is approved, the copay is not usually a limiting factor. And of course, with the Medicaid population, if they do get approved, again, the copay is not an issue.
Harvoni was approved by the FDA in October for the treatment of hepatitis C patients with genotype 1. The combination drug is manufactured by the same organization as Sovaldi. Harvoni is a combination NS5A inhibitor and a nucleotide analog, NS5B polymerase inhibitor. This once-daily drug has demonstrated efficacy with consistent SVR rates above 90%. In addition to this newest agent, several other hepatitis C drugs are expected to appear in the marketplace soon. Renee, do you believe this competition will lead to decreased costs within hepatitis C?
Yes and no. So Harvoni came to the market, the first oral agent. It combines 2 antivirals, as we mentioned. It's a once-a-day treatment. And it was FDA approved for shorter treatment duration. So some patients can actually qualify to use it for 8 weeks, which offers a little lower price. And then other patients, the standard pretty much is 12 weeks, and then the worst patients, 24 weeks. There are other competitors ready to come to the market. One of the competitors, a BMS product, pulled their application because they couldn't achieve SVR rates close to where Harvoni was. The next competitor, AbbVie products, it's questionable as to whether or not it will come to the market approved without the use of ribavirin. And that particular product contains 3 antivirals. If it is approved with the use of ribavirin, patients will have to take multiple tablets, and some of them twice a day, which may make adherence an issue. So in order to have competition in terms of decreasing the price to Harvoni, these products are going to have at least comparable cure rates and offer a similar dosing in terms of taking a tablet once a day. What we did see happen this week was Alisio got an FDA approval to be combined with Sovaldi for the use in genotype 1 patients. We already know from the off-label use of Alisio and Sovaldi together that the cost of that treatment for 12 weeks was about $150,000. But with the new approval of the combined use, it is offering a 12-week treatment duration for non-cirrhotic patients and a 24-week treatment duration for patients with cirrhosis. So that means that if patients with genotype 1 with cirrhosis would take that combination, it could cost close to $300,000. So therefore, that does make Harvoni's price look not so bad.
Yeah, with that high cost and